and have also been to the council members and also been posted on the city website. Copies of reports have been provided to council members and have also been posted on the city website. We have two communications. One is the Conservation Advisory Council report for February 2022 and the data report from Chief Moore. Let's see, hold on a second. Okay. So we can go right to department reports. Is anyone from, let's see, anyone from the fire department here? Yeah.
Tom, Nick, I'm here.
Oh, there you are, Nick. Yeah, great. Please go ahead.
Sorry, running a few minutes late.
That's okay.
So just a quick update of January. We had a rough number, 67 calls for service in the month of January. That included 24 calls in a less than 24-hour period when we had the power outage. So January was a little hectic. A couple of mutual aid structure fires, structure fire of our own down on Columbia Street, which was electrical, that our guys caught before there was major damage. So pretty busy month. And then this month has started off pretty busy as well with the structure fire on Saturday night. So not much else that I have to report as of right now, except for that I'm actually still at work. So I just want to jump on quick and give that report.
Do you have any other details about the Allen Street fire, Nick?
It appears at this time that it may have been electrical. We're waiting for the insurance company for the homeowner to come in and go over that better. But that's after the investigation. That's what we are leaning towards based on the area of origin and what we found.
Thank you. Anyone on the council have questions for Nick? Nick Pirro.
I got a quick question, Nick. First thing, great job to you and the department on Saturday. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys arrived and extinguished this major fire in less than 30 minutes. Is that correct?
Yeah, the first engine was on scene within, I think it was about 2 minutes. I don't have the times right in front of me from 911. And the bulk of the fire was knocked down within the first 20. There was heavy fire on the first floor and very high heat and smoke on the second floor that we had to contend with, plus a report of a person trapped. So everybody, all the guys, mutual aid companies did an outstanding job doing what they had to do with very little direction, which is awesome from a standpoint of the chief. So we're very proud of all of our guys and grateful for our mutual aid companies as well.
And I just want to, I don't know if the rest of the council give a snapshot of, the tremendous teamwork between you guys, police department and DPW, and also simultaneously other departments coming in almost the same time for a Bliss Tower call, correct?
Yeah, we had another reported fire at the same time at Bliss Towers. It happened to be a culinary mishap that our mutual aid companies took care of, that were standing by at the firehouse, which was Stottville, Chatham, and Germantown. And then something else that I kind of forgot about, which is still very important. Our pickup truck was T-boned at 6th and Columbia the same night of the fire with 3 of our members in it. Another vehicle ran the red light. Nobody in our vehicle was hurt. 2 people in the other vehicle were seen by medical staff and refused medical treatment at the scene. But there is damage to the pickup. It's at the body shop now for an estimate to get that repaired.
So again, I probably the rest of the council, speak for himself, but I'm sure they're appreciative for. This is just a snapshot of probably a 5-hour period of what you guys do every day, and I'm very appreciative for everything you guys do.
I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Nick? Okay, thank you, Nick.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too. Liz York? There you are.
Hello.
Hi.
I prepared another slideshow for you all, so let me just share my screen. No. Okay. Oh, that's the wrong button. Wrong kind of sharing. All right.
There you go. Perfect.
Yes. Oh, thank you. So we'll start with community engagement. Last Wednesday, we held a COVID vaccine clinic at the youth center with the Columbia County Department of Health. It went very well, very smoothly. We had steady participation, people coming in either for their vaccine, their booster, or we were giving out test kits and masks that had been provided by the city. So we had a lot of people come for that. We, as the youth center, also gave out some hygiene kits and some warm weather clothing and snacks to anybody who came in and needed it as well. And so that went really well also. We'll be doing a follow-up clinic on Wednesday, the 23rd. For anybody that got their first round of their shot and needs to come back, we'll also be giving boosters still. One thing that kind of came to us as we were doing it is we recognized that the time frame of 3 to 5 may be difficult for families who are looking to get their kids vaccinated. So we talked to the Department of Health and we got the appropriate forms to get permission from families to bring their children to the clinic if that is something that they are wanting to do but having trouble organizing. So if you know anyone who was hopeful that they could get their kid vaccinated but they couldn't come in, we'll be able to help support them. We have the forms to fill out. They can reach out to us, and we're going to do a little bit of outreach in the coming weeks as well to our families to see if anybody's interested in that. But just thought that was a really cool opportunity and something we're hoping people can take advantage of if that is something that's causing an obstacle to getting vaccinated for your child. This Saturday was really cool. This past Saturday, we went to Basilica Hudson. We took some kids down. We're hoping to get more kids signed up for next weekend. But this weekend we went down an eco tool shed and shared stories. We're at Basilica Hudson doing a building workshop where they taught and demonstrated how to build a quarter pipe for a skate park. It was really cool to watch. It was pretty simple, basic math, measuring, and basic tool skills. All the tools were from the tool shed. And then hands-on supporting, and then everybody got to skate afterwards too, which was really cool. And so here's some more photos of people participating. It was cool because, you know, children don't often get the opportunity to hold power tools and support with that, but it was a nice, safe opportunity for them to do that. And then it got put out on the skating area for kids to use right away. So that was really cool. So this park that's down at Basilica is open every Thursday and Saturday from 4 to 6, and it's a free facility, which is really cool. There's just a liability waiver to sign. Kids under 18 do need to wear a helmet, and the youth department's going to try to plan a field trip in the near future with our participants. We just want to make sure that we have access to extra helmets, skateboards, skates, etc., so that everybody has the opportunity to use the facilities, because not everybody has those things on their own. So. And then next Saturday, we're going to go back. They're doing another workshop where they're going to teach mural painting with a spray paint medium, which a lot of the kids are really excited for. If you still want to sign up for that through the youth center, we have some forms to fill out, and you can still sign up for that. You can also go without being a part of the youth center, but what we'll be doing is providing transportation, supervision, and snacks to anybody that comes with us. So if you're too busy and your child wants to go to this, give us a call. We'll sign them up and we'll come pick them up. This I'm really excited about. We posted our first YouTube video on our new channel. It's just an outline of some of the programs that we offer through the youth department. It's a great start to our virtual program community. It's a great introduction video for anybody who's not sure what kind of things we do at the youth center. This outlines a lot of it. And our staff worked really hard to put it together. And yeah, they're working on creating more content now. They're also receiving a lot of media and technology training in order to be doing this at a more professional level. And they're really excited to use the skills that they're learning, not only for creating the virtual programming videos, but they're also excited to pass it on to the children when they come back to the center. So if you are interested in watching this video, I figured I'd spare everybody me having you watch it through my computer. You can find us on YouTube. Just search City of Hudson Department of Youth to find our channel, and you can watch this video. If you subscribe to the channel, then anytime we add something new, you'll just be notified right away. So, and then we're also going to start virtual homework help soon. And we're doing outreach for that this week as well. So, Oakdale Updates. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but these giant clumps of vegetation that you'll see in the lake here are mostly Phragmites, which are an invasive species. It was our goal to remove them this summer, but then we found out that we needed the appropriate permits from the DEC. And so we started to file those permit forms, and finally this last week, we got approved, which is really cool. So, you have to take into consideration the wildlife and the habitats there, and then also how you're going to dispose of the vegetation in a safe way that's not going to, cause them to just grow somewhere else. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to get that done before the beach opens for swimming. Obviously, with the frozen lake, it's not going to happen right away, but that does give us some time to plan and get set up for that. So we're really excited about that. Other Oakdale updates, we got our kayaks came in that we ordered. We're going to have these at Oakdale this summer for rentals. It's really cool to get out and paddle on the lake. Our kids at camp have been really excited that they get the opportunity to do it, but we know that not everybody can own a kayak, so we're excited to have them at Oakdale as an opportunity for members of the community to use so that they can go out on the lake and paddle around. Again, a warm weather activity, but something to look forward to. And as that season approaches, we'll have some updates on what that system is going to look like. Another Oakdale update, the Oakdale Plunge is coming up. It's going to be on March 5th. One of the big things supported by this fundraiser is the beach at Oakdale and its lifeguards. Oakdale Plunge directly helps us facilitate lifeguard training for local teens, creating job and life skill opportunities for our community. It also helps us to keep the beach open and usable. Last summer, we were able to keep the beach open for a couple extra weeks. And this coming summer, we're hoping to increase the public beach hours even more. And that would not be possible without support from Friends of Hudson Youth and the fundraising they do at the Oakdale Plunge. There's still time to sign up. I hear that Tom does it every year, and I think it could be a cool thing to get everybody from the council there. So I hear the water's not that cold, so don't worry about it.
Well, thanks for putting me on the spot, Liz.
Hey, I'm here for you. It was also really cool. The fire department came and helped us take down an old Oakdale Plunge banner and put up a new one, and they brought their ladder truck. So it's kind of like, drill on the ladder truck and putting up the banner. And it was really cool to see that thing in person. So if you're driving by the youth department, keep an eye out for the sign. And in some other news, we started hiring for some new recreation attendants. We had some of our longer-term rec attendants move on to new opportunities. So we have some openings available. We've had some really great applicants who have applied so far. We're hoping to do some hiring soon. We've got more interviews continuing throughout the week, and we're also still accepting applicants if anybody is interested. We're looking for applicants 16 or older who can commit to 20 hours a week with us. So that job posting is on our Facebook and Instagram, or they can just reach out to me directly at director@cityofhudsonyouth.org. We also posted the opening today for the food and nutrition coordinator position, and we are so excited about that. So if you know anybody who would be interested in that or who might want some more information, again, just reach out to me directly. And we are also starting our search for our new recreation program coordinator. This position's been vacant for a while, and we are ready to bring someone into the team in that role. And this position is really important because they help find, create, and facilitate all of the programming we offer at the youth center and our summer programs. And it's a big role to fill, but it's also really rewarding and can be, you get to engage directly with all the youth we serve. And you get to do the fun stuff like go on field trips and play sports and go kayaking and on hikes and stuff. So again, if you know anybody who's interested in that or you yourself are interested, reach out. director at cityofhudsonyouth.org. All right. And that's it. Oh, you're on mute, Tom. I'm really excited that I got to say that to you instead of you.
Thank you, Liz. Any questions from council members? Please raise your hand. It makes it easier to see. Okay, Vicky.
Hi, Liz. First of all, you've done an incredible job with vaccines, with the clinic. And I have to say your team is amazing.
Thank you.
People working there, and I really appreciate it, and the whole community is. What I wanted to ask you is, and it's probably we have another month until you are in person, or where kids can resume coming to the department, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you have a feedback from parents saying this is hard for my employment, because there is such a shortage of labor, as we all know? And what do these parents do? Is there any alternative, or can the community kind of provide a network of the ones that, babysitters or something that they can help?
Yeah. I'm honestly not sure what families are doing. I mean, I haven't gotten that feedback directly, but I don't need to get that feedback to know that that's the reality for a lot of the families.
Yeah.
Nobody has reached out to us to say that they need support in any way, but obviously if they were to reach out and there were a way we could support them, we would work towards that.
Okay, so if nobody did, that probably means they found their way. When are you opening?
The hope is March 1st, and we're going to reevaluate as it gets closer. So not too far away, but it feels like a long time too.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else from the council have a question? Maya, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I think Liz has covered everything. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any community questions or comments? Okay, Bill, 2 questions.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Tom. Liz, I want to bring up a question that seems like I bring up it just about every year. I know this is your first winter here, but I went down to the park, the Oakdale Park, the other day, actually yesterday, and the sidewalk hadn't been plowed. I'm sorry, the walkway down the hill hadn't been plowed. The entire parking lot and entrance had not been plowed. There was no salt anywhere. And the pathway to the front door of your office hadn't been plowed, which is basically the entrance to the beach or to the park. And I guess I'm wondering, is DPW responsible for clearing the snow, I assume? And why isn't it done as quickly as the other parks in town are? Because I walked through 7th Street Park on Saturday, and all those paths were cleared, the sidewalks were all cleared, and the snow at the parking lot and along the paths at the beginning by your office were untouched till this morning. And I'm just wondering why it is the DPW, or if they have to do it, why they aren't doing it as quickly as the others, because there's a lot of ice and it was kind of dangerous.
I mean, I can't speak to other departments and why they do what they do, but I do know this storm was particularly hard to remove. I know my driveway was plowed and it looked like it wasn't, because that's the kind of storm we had, which was unfortunate. So I know a lot of work had to go into the ice and snow removal for this storm.
But it is DPW's responsibility, is that right?
They plow, yeah, and we share, if we're around, we'll help shovel and put down salt, but we don't have a plow, so they plow. And they got to it today. I don't know if you got down there today. It does look great down there.
Yeah,
but it was a hard storm to remove.
Yeah, but it took
Okay,
them
Bill.
3 days that and 1
Move
day
on
to
to
get
the
to
next question, Bill.
My last question is, the entrance to the beach, or the entrance to the park, essentially from the parking lot, it seems to me that the most logical way to get to the beach is to walk from the pavement or the concrete onto the sand instead of walking around towards your door. But there's a rope that's covering the entrance, basically, and I'm just wondering why that's there, and does it have to be there? Does it have to be there?
Yeah, I know you're not a big fan of that rope, Bill. You know, when the beach opens up and we're back to using that regularly, we'll definitely revisit that. But right now it's not the safest way to get on. So I think for the winter, having that up there so people aren't trying to step onto that icy ledge is probably the best idea. But I'm open to exploring that in this summer season when people are
Is the rope there to keep cars from going on the beach?
partially.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
it seems like there's
Okay.
another way to do it, and I hope you can do it.
Yeah, there's another way to do everything we do there, Bill. We're trying our best. So
Okay, any other questions from the public? Okay, we can move along. Thank you, Liz and Maya.
thanks, guys.
Tom, there was a question from Alina Mosley.
I don't see their hand up, but okay.
She had her hand up, yeah.
Oh, literally a hand up. Okay, sorry.
Thank you. Tom. I just wanted to comment. I came in late, so I saw the youth center was up and Liz was talking. I just want to commend them for helping to sponsor the workshop. I attended with our youth on Saturday at Basilica to help build the skateboard ramp, and the next week is going to be the mural. And I was just very surprised about how many families came out to participate in the event. And with the youth center being closed, I thought, wow, what a wonderful option to have. So that was it. Just wanted to commend them, and I'm sure they'll just keep going with wonderful programs. So I look forward to bringing the teens again next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena.
Thank you. It
Thank
was
you,
good to see you there.
Okay. No other questions. We'll move along. Is Heather in the house? I don't see Heather.
I am.
Ah, there you are.
Okay, let me go ahead and share my screen. Relatively short and sweet this time for a variety of different reasons. Okay. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we've talked for quite some time about an accrual policy. We did get a draft one in. As a reminder, this is something that Office of the State Comptroller had recommended that we implement because the city has been providing accrual time to employees for literally probably 3 or 4 decades, but there's actually no policy in place that explains how they earn it, how it can be used, whether it sunsets or not, and how it gets paid out. So that's what the purpose of this accrual policy will be. I believe that all of the members of the BEA, as well as a couple other people, will be reviewing that along with the attorney that did the initial draft. So I'm hoping to have something in place for the council to review, ideally by next month, but if not, certainly by the next month after that.
Have you sent it to BEA members?
I didn't send it to anyone. I
Oh.
received it from Elena. I know Kamal did as well. I can certainly do that. I will put that, I will make that note and I will send it off to you all tomorrow.
Thank you.
Let me just write myself a note before I forget. Okay. Again, this is not new news from last month, but I left it on there just because we have a significant lift ahead of us in terms of rejiggering our general ledger system to accommodate the new changes from GASB 84. GASB is the Government Accountant Standards Bureau. And we have to make those changes all the way back to 2020, which is then going to influence 2021. And we're still in the middle of trying to get caught up on 2021, given our significant staff shortages. So I'm just leaving this on here so people know that that is something that we are still attempting to get done and will probably take some time to get done. You will see a resolution tonight for speed signage for Union and Glenwood. As you recall, the council, I believe back in October or November, passed a local law reducing the speed limit to 25 miles an hour on a section of Glenwood Boulevard, and I think the entirety of Union Street. So this amendment is for literally signs that show the speed limit, since it is a change. I was not able to get it completed for today, but I hope to have a resolution for encumbrances, for encumbrancing funds from 2021 to 2022. And for those new council members, basically what that means is an encumbrance is a commitment that that a given department has made in 2021. They've signed a contract, they've placed a purchase order, something along those lines, but they don't anticipate to receive the actual invoice for the product until 2022. But since it was budgeted for and it was engaged in 2021, we basically take those funds and we encumber them into the 2022 budget. In addition to those types of examples, the other things that get encumbered are basically any grants that we have received, because they have to carry over until they are used, and also any donations. So the youth department and fire department in particular almost always have donations at the end of the year that are unspent, but obviously those donations have been committed to those departments to be spent, so they in effect will roll over. So I hope to have that to you by next Tuesday, or next Monday, actually, if we want to beat the 24-hour requirement. Okay, still looking at December here. Some of the numbers haven't changed, but several of them have, and in a very positive way. It gets very complicated at the end of the year, even under normal circumstances when we have full staffing, because as you can imagine, there are revenues that come in January, February, and sometimes even as late as March that are actually revenues that are associated with the prior year. So those have to get charged back. The same thing is true with the expenditures. So we're in this kind of gray area where we will not know for a couple months, number one, how much of the revenue that is coming in needs to be charged back to 2021, and also what expenditures are still outstanding that will be charged against 2021, which then by definition means it's virtually impossible to predict what's going on in the first month or two in 2022. So let me point out the highlights on this. The big changes from last month are that parking and other permits actually went up to 55.5. So we beat the 2021 budget by about 11% on that. And our 2022 budget is 50,000. So that's looking like a good number. Parking tickets also went up to 406,000 versus a budget of 350. So that's obviously strong performance at a 16% increase. We did make a more aggressive estimate for the 2022 budget of 400,000. Right now, that's looking reasonable given where we are in terms of 2021 year to date. In building permits and fees, there was no change to plumbing permits, if I recall correctly, but building permits, we did see some additional chargebacks. And so we're at 166,000. Again, you can see that's about a 33% increase over the budget. And again, you can see in the last column that we acknowledged that and made a more aggressive assumption for 2022 of 150,000. I think we probably all feel pretty good about that number, given all of the work that is happening in and around the city. Well, not around the city, only in the city. Sales tax. This is definitely new and very good news. We got our fourth quarter. We haven't gotten the fourth quarter sales tax money yet, but we got a statement of how much we earned. And if I remember correctly, it's $592,000 just for the fourth quarter. So that brings us up to roughly 2.2 million versus a budget of 1.7. So significantly above budget. Again, though, you can see that for 2022, we acknowledge that, and we have an estimate of 2.3 million. That's going to be one to keep a very close eye on. Nobody seems to be quite sure. And of course, none of us are, we don't have crystal balls, but most people seem to think that the sales tax will eventually slow down again. The only question is how and when and to what extent. So relatively aggressive for 2022. We will certainly be keeping our eye on those quarterly payments to see, but 2021 looks really great. Nothing new on mortgage tax. And we were able to actually reconcile lodging tax through the end of the year. So we saw a nice bump there up to 458,000 versus a budget of 300,000. And you can see in 2022, we also still have a budget of 300,000. So that looks like it might be conservative. So that's great news. So overall, for those 3 tax-based categories, we had a budget of 2.1 million. We came in at 3. So can't ask for much better than that. Oh, and I promised last month that I would show you pretty pictures when we talk about our collection software. So let me, with no further introduction, introduce you to our tax collection and other revenue collection software. This is what one of the main interfaces look like. You will notice that it's copyright 1993.
Heather, not to interrupt you. Heather, not to interrupt you, but remind everybody what operating system this is on.
This is not even DOS. This is something that it sort of predates DOS. So I don't know how many people know technology enough to know the different kinds of programming codes, but suffice it to say that this type of software has not been developed like this for literally probably 20 years. I only have a few screens. I just wanted to show you some options. So this is just one screen that shows you sort of the gyrations we have to go through just to put in one type of tax every time we put in a new tax in the system. So basically every year, and then every year for the school tax when it comes over, and for the county tax. And that's just for that. You can see how user-friendly that looks. This is what the tax collection component of this is. And again, you can see that it is, I will say, quite outdated, very manual, very prone to error. To give you a sense, this component of our collection system accounts for approximately $5.5 million of the city's revenue on an annual basis. And this is the one and only thing that we use to capture that actual revenue and be able to report it in the general ledger system. We also use the same software to collect literally every other revenue that the city takes in. And here's just one example of taking in literally just 2 different parking ticket amounts in one day. We take in $10 million worth of revenue through this system, in addition to the 5.5 million in taxes, through this system using this software. And fun fact, I just wanted to show sort of like what it looks like to try and set up a report. And Michelle Tulof, the Housing Justice Director, asked what seemed to be a very simple request, which is, we have a list of properties who are at risk of foreclosure. There are some programs out there that can provide assistance. Can we provide her a list of the properties at risk of foreclosure? The answer was absolutely, we can. Problem is, we can't do it and provide her with a mailing address at the same time. Mailing address is kind of critical if what you want to do is reach out to these people. So it took me approximately a week, not full time, obviously, trying to jerry-rig something so that I could get her the mailing addresses for the properties that are at risk of foreclosure. I had no way of bringing those 2 pieces of data together. So I had to literally provide her the list of the owners and the property addresses, and then a separate list of the mailing addresses, and count on her to be able to combine those somehow. So, and these are just some of the many hundreds of different what are called purpose codes that are in the system that all relate to individual things having to do with either tax billing or revenue receipting. And that's it. That's the end of my little slideshow. But I know many people have seen what comes out of the general ledger system, you know, like the budget report, and complained about how unuser friendly that is. I thought it would be very interesting for everyone to see what we're actually dealing with on a day-to-day operational basis. That's it.
Thank you, Heather. We have some questions from the council. Dominic, your hand's up first.
Thank you. Thank you, Heather. So besides buying another roll of duct tape to hold it together, is it possible to start investigating how we can move this into a better program? And, $10 million, I think, it's a percentage needs to go back into the finance. So is there a way to look for a solution?
I believe she already has. Heather?
Yes, absolutely. And again, we've spoken about this a little bit before. We obviously would put out a request for proposals to a variety of different vendors. The reality is, though, very few of them provide the capabilities that we need. And one of the reasons that we are actually still so far behind on this software is because going with the big ones that could have done perhaps the conversion earlier on, 2, 3, 4 years ago, we were literally getting quotes of over $250,000. That's not feasible. The vendor that we currently have had made some improvements. I mean, frankly, the general ledger software is, the first leap that they made into what's called WYSIWYG software versus just, basically, I'm going to say DOS, even though it's not DOS, but DOS-based software. They are now, like everyone else is, elevating it to the cloud. But the key difference between now and the previous iterations is that they are making available critical components that we as a city need that were not available in other iterations. And the two ones that I keep reiterating are, one, the city currently issues its tax bill with 4 quarterly payments. Most software does not provide that capability. The second one, and as far as I'm concerned, even more critical one, is the ability to take multiple years of back taxes and roll them into what we call an installment agreement, which is basically a payment plan that helps the taxpayers get out from under their delinquent taxes so the city doesn't have to take action and foreclose on their properties. To me, that's obviously one of the most critical things. I'm absolutely, and I don't think anyone on this call would be willing to give that capability up. They have said that they are committed to making both of those things happen. And so that's where we are.
Okay, Ryan, you have a question.
More of a statement. I just want to, and Heather, just for everyone's edification too, all of this lives native on the one computer in your office that functions with the software. So God forbid that went down, that is everything, correct?
No, that's actually not correct. That's a little too extreme. The software lives on a server. The collection software that you see, the collection software that I showed you, the only people that utilize that are my office for receiving in the revenues and for tax collection, and the water and sewer department, because they also use the same software to collect the water and sewer bill. And I think there are some major opportunities for improved efficiency on that side as well. Not my department, but I'd love to talk about that. So it does live on the server. The data does get backed up on a regular basis.
Okay, good.
But at the same time, I will tell you, we are having a growing number. So basically what happens is we do all this stuff in the collection software, and then it generates a report, and then that report gets imported into the general ledger software so that we're recording all the revenues and the taxes against accounts receivable and all that stuff. We are incurring more and more frequently the fact that when the report is generated, it's just missing 1 or 2 things that were actually in the system. And without having basically an eagle eye every single day, because we do this every single day, to catch when the report isn't actually right. And then we have to go and make physical modifications just to make sure it's right. And obviously that would be burdensome, even if we were, far better staffed than we are. So yeah, it's a little stressful, to be honest with you, but at least it's getting backed up.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Theo has a question.
Hey, yeah, what the budget software and the general ledger software are 2 different softwares, correct?
Yes and no, they're integrated, and they should be, because they really have to speak to each other. As I just said, we need to be able to produce the data out of the collection software, and ideally you want it to seamlessly go into the general ledger software. We currently have the same vendor for both now. I would strongly encourage that that is how we would want to go forward.
And what is the name of the budget software and what's the name of the general ledger software?
They're both by a company called KVS, which is owned by a parent company called Springbrook. They have gone back and forth in the entire time I've been there. There's probably been 4 owners, at least. It started out as, I think, Springbrook, then it went to something else, then it went to Acela, and then Acela divested them again, and now they're back to Springbrook. I think that's ideal for us because they're focused on their piece of what they do, as opposed to when they were part of Acela, which is a much, much, much bigger company. And so you sort of get lost in the shuffle.
And do you know how long we've been using the current software setup?
The software setup or the software vendor?
The current software vendor that we're using right now. How long have we been using this software?
Since the at least mid 1990s.
Okay. Thanks.
Maybe the forthcoming tech committee can help in terms of evaluating future programs. Art, that seems to have inspired you to raise your hand.
Yeah, I was just going to second that. That's like, as a technologist, that just makes my soul hurt, Heather.
Yeah, trust me, I worked in the .com industry for quite some time and ended up actually like managing programmers. So trust me, my pain is real.
You're doing the Lord's work. That's rough.
Yeah, it's rough.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope that like this council can make some strides in really improving the system, because I think between the staffing and the criticality of the software, there's like huge opportunities to move the needle here.
Completely agree. And I'd also just like to point out that it doesn't just have, backroom efficiency operations. It also has the ability to improve, ease of understanding for the taxpayer and the other people in our community, and for the council itself. Ideally, better reporting, more visual reporting for people that learn that way. I don't think anybody is thrilled with the budget document that comes out right now. And we did try for a few years. We had something called OpenGov, which did make it sort of more visually acceptable, but it still was not particularly
useful.
Great. And we did not have a lot of, at least from the taxpayer side, at least in terms of the people that came to visit the site to look at the data that way, it was very limited, which is why we didn't update it. And that was a very mutual decision across the BEA back in the day. I see Tom nodding because he was part of that. And yeah.
Theo took his hand down. Okay.
I was just going to say really quick that I think the visualization is a really important priority, and really translating the document for people to read and understand. So I'm really glad to hear that everyone thinks this is a priority. So excited to dig into the weeds of it.
Okay. Anyone else on the council? The community, Bill Houston.
Yeah. Excuse me, Heather, is it possible, or do you know what percentage of the revenues for the city come in the form of parking tickets?
It was just posted. It was just posted.
Yes, I just reported on that. If you hold on 1 second, let me just move my my screen and take a look at my little report here.
I don't.
So parking tickets in 2021, parking tickets currently, and again, caveat, haven't closed out the year yet, yada, 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 are about $400,000. And the total general fund budget is approximately 11 million.
So it's 5%, something like that? I can't do that math. So you don't have a number in front of you of what percentage it is, or a general idea?
Where are you going with this, Bill? Come on.
This is just my curiosity, Tom.
Okay, but I don't hear a question.
what's the percentage? What about the percent? That's my question, Tom. I just asked it.
Okay.
So
It would be about 3.5%, Bill.
Thank you, Heather.
3.5%. Okay, second and last question. Is your department or any department in the city enforcing the short-term rental rules, like making sure that some Airbnbs are paying their way? Is that actively being done?
I would say that it is not overly actively being done, at least by my office, just because of our complete lack of bandwidth.
So if you had bandwidth, it would be your department. It wouldn't be the police. It wouldn't be DPW, anybody else. Is that right?
The way that the law is written now, my department is responsible. If we're found out of compliance, my department is responsible for dealing with lawyers and whoever else we would have to deal with in order to enact enforcement.
So there's no active, like somebody looking at, say, the Airbnb website and seeing if all those properties that are available in Hudson are on your list and are paying their way?
Well, we actually have two different vendors that are doing that right now. We have our original vendor who does a deep dive and identifies ones that they believe are not in compliance. And then we have the other one that the council brought forward that also basically what they do is kind of scrape the all of the short-term rental websites looking for properties and trying to identify those. So we certainly have from time, obviously with our existing vendor, it's a little more straightforward because they provide information to us. We give it back to them. They send out the notifications. With the new vendor, we have to be a little more proactive about it. And we've done that from time to time, but yeah.
So these are vendors that the city pays to do that work for us?
Correct.
Correct. Well, the first vendor, we actually pay to do basically the entire thing. They do the online registration, the online tax collection. So people, the short-term rental people go on that. They provide us the funding information and the bank reconciliations and all of that. Well, not the reconciliations, but the payment information for both the certificate of occupancy, the lodging tax, and any kind of penalties and interest. The second vendor, their sole focus is to try and identify properties within the city of Hudson boundary that are not in compliance.
Well, and they also come up with, they're capable of estimating how many days a property is used as well. So they do have a couple other functions.
Well,
But-
I mean, as we've discussed, Tom, the way that they do that is by picking a percentage. And then if you or the city wants to change that percentage, they can do that as well.
Mhm.
Heather, are you happy with the work?
You're done, Bill, on this. We don't ask happiness questions. Rebecca Wolf had her hand up.
Sorry, what I was going to say was already said. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. Okay, Ronnie, you're muted.
Yep. I guess the question is, so the websites and apps that list these properties, they don't have any function of reporting this to the areas. So it has to be basically like we have to seek this information out. So because I just heard Heather say that we kind of estimate the occupancy and stuff like that. The websites don't report anything like that to the city?
Yeah, they report all of it.
Oh, okay. All right. Like Airbnb gives the report, this is how many properties you have. That's kind of what I'm asking. It does not. Okay. That's interesting.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I could answer that.
Oh, okay, Rebecca.
Yeah, so lodging revs there's a whole dashboard and interface with lots of reports and lots of information that's available, but you do have to actively go and look at the dashboard and like then make use of that information. So it's just that right now there is nobody doing that.
Thank you, Rebecca.
We
And
need to-
also, Roni, if you're asking whether or not any of these entities report back to the short-term rental websites themselves, I know that Lodging Revs does not. There is some opportunity for the other vendor to do that. It requires another level of agreement that I'm not sure that we have entered into, not one that I think has a financial implication, just we need to give them certain permissions to do that. And, you know, that's what we're going to be exploring that as well, because my understanding is they have the ability to basically reach out to, for example, an Airbnb and say, this is an illegal listing. And because of the relationship they have with these providers, Airbnb would actually make that inaccessible. So once we get back rolling into normalcy in my office, that's certainly one of the next things I'd like to pursue.
Well, thanks for all the clarification, Rebecca and everything.
Okay. One of the other plans is also, of course, to fund someone in City Hall to, do further reporting on this in communication with both websites. I mean, both company vendors. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you, Heather. Okay. Any other questions for Heather? Okay, let's move along to the Chief Moore.
Hello, everybody. Right off, the mandatory reporting has been submitted regarding our body cam review for new members of the board. We charge our first line supervisors to review at least 24. Each sergeant will review 6 body camera incidents per week for a total of 24 per week, around 100 a month. Get reviewed, sampled, random sampled to check officer conduct. That report comes out of the park committee and an executive order from a while ago. And I just wanted you to know that we do that monthly reporting and send that to the mayor, and that was done last week. As far as the reporting to the board, which involves to the council regarding arrests, type of arrests, and use of force, I've emailed that to everybody, and it should be in your City of Hudson email. But I'll summarize it. We had one. Now we're talking about the month of January now. We had one use of force incident, and there was no required duty to intervene where the police officer observes excessive force being used. So there were no incidents and has to act, and there was no incidences of that. The number of arrests and bookings for the month was 34, which that'll be listed in your report that you have. I reviewed it for any trends or significant upticks in certain type of criminal behavior, and it's pretty even across the board. So you can review that. Misdemeanor vehicle and traffic charges, misdemeanors, violations, and felonies are all in there. I didn't see anything significant that is alarming at this time. In fact, the 34 arrests for the month is below our average, significantly below our average. We had 6 incidents of responding to emotionally disturbed people calls, which is a significant amount. But remember, this summer we were averaging 16 to 18 per month. So that's down very significantly. So happy about that. We had 2 instances of drug overdoses, no deaths, fortunately. And one of the instances, the officers administered Narcan and was able to revive the victim. So that's all in the report, and I'm open to any questions or emails once you review them. I'll get you the best answer I can. As far as the department's activity for the month, between weather events and power outages, and which is actually a busy January. Way back in the first week of January, the department received 40 COVID test kits from the City Hall, which you might remember we've been battling some COVID positive tests here, but we're clear of that now. The department's at full staff with no one out with COVID right now. The next week, the 6th through the 11th, I spent some time with DPW, Rob Perry, and some property owners in the city, almost exclusively within the 4th Ward, to deal with some loading and unloading issues, specifically around the Maker Hotel, and discussions about the other hotel in the 4th Ward, the Whaler. So we're just coming up with a conversation, and I've been in contact with the 4th Ward alders to arrange a meeting to discuss these various issues. On the 13th, I met with our pre-employment group. For those that don't know, we're trying to figure out a way to attract local people into our police department. We've been working in conjunction with the community college to try to get some credit-bearing courses and some financial aid so that we can attract local people to be interested in a law enforcement career and try to get some local people on the force. So that's been in development with an academy, a Columbia Green Community College Academy type of academy starting sometime in the fall. On the 16th, we dealt with quite a few power outages through the city, working with the fire department, our officers. We had some traffic concerns, but power doesn't go out a lot in Hudson. So that was an interesting day, but we got through it without any accidents or injuries. On the 24th, I met with the Greenberger Diversion Work Group, which is headed by our city attorney, Cheryl Roberts, in trying to address the issues of emotionally disturbed people, drug dependent people. And there's a significant progress being made to establish a treatment center or an area to divert people out of the criminal justice section, criminal justice area, and into treatment. And she's making very good progress on a county level. Speaking of the county, on the 26th, I met with Chairman Morrell from the county and our mayor. This county has secured significant funding for a field team, which is basically social services experts that can go out and address our issues with people in need, emotionally disturbed people, homeless people, before they end up involved with police interaction. So that's being developed now. The idea is to try to get people help before it become a criminal problem for the department, for our community. The department's working hard towards our accreditation re-inspection that's coming up. Our state, we're one of the about 25 or 30% of all police departments in the city have state accreditation. We're one of them, but it requires constant review of our policies, procedures by the state. So we're working very hard for the next round of inspections. And I give credit to all the guys, but Nick Piro, and who you heard earlier, and his boss, Detective Sergeant Finn, who's successfully been working all day, and were able to get a stolen handgun off the streets here in Hudson. They're heading to Albany now to work with Albany police on that. But we have in our possession a handgun that was stolen, and we've recovered it, and it's obviously won't harm anybody in our city. So they did a really good job and working since before sunup today on that, and are still working. Other than that, the department's doing well. We have the one officer, Reed Ferris, in the academy. I understand he's doing well, and we're getting the job done. We're trying to keep a handle on overtime, and nothing bad to report. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Chief. First question, Theo, Anthony, Alder Anthony.
Still sounds weird. Yeah, thank you, Chief, for that. This is one of the first times being on this side of the report. So I just had a couple like technical questions that hopefully you could clarify. I was just wondering, who is the body worn camera supervisor for the department? Is it a single person or is it a rotating staff?
I supervise, I've been as from the beginning, from securing the funding to picking out the hardware to the implementation, and it's been built into our policy. So we charge the first line supervisors with constant review of the cameras, of the body worn camera, and that's how we track that, Theo.
And what okay, yeah. And what would you mind saying again what the review process is in terms of like is it at random and how often again? I know you said it before, but I missed it.
It's random. We charge we have four first line supervisors. We charge them to do 6 per week for a total of 24 per week for around 96 to 100 per month, get randomly sampled. That could be everything from, a felony call to a traffic stop.
Okay, and are use of force incidents automatically reviewed by body worn by the BWC supervisor?
For example, I reported 1 use of force this month, so they would automatically be reviewed. In this instance, the use of force was the pointing of a taser. So even though it wasn't deployed, we still consider that a use of force, and then we have to do a report on that, in which a supervisor reviews it. I finally sign off on it. So in this instance, yeah, I'm sorry.
No. I was just so the use of force incident is seen by you and the supervising officer. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And what I guess there's another category in the body worn camera thing of the findings of saying okay, or I guess I don't know what the other designation would be, like not okay, or what is the process for arriving at okay or not okay, or what goes into the review?
So there's everything from a minor dereliction, like for example, where your position of your camera needs to be improved, or all the way up through our policies to see if in fact any of the policies were violated in need of a performance observation record to say, hey, you should have done this, you should have done that, all the way up to a severe violation of policy, which would be administrative action, disciplinary action.
Okay, and then I guess just back to the use of force thing real quick, would that use of force be reviewed by anyone outside the police department? Like if there's a use of force incident, does it get reviewed by the mayor or the commissioner, or does that stay internal?
It stays internal.
Okay, and then I guess just the last thing, and this is like might not even be possible, but I was wondering if just in releasing the documents, if there's any way to arrange the report chronologically. This might be a future thing to build in for our tech committee, but I just with the report, I assume it was all the different supervisors' reports, but they were all sort of out of order, and it might just be easier for everyone if they were all chronological, and we could look at it that way.
Yeah, I think I've got one right here. I thought they have the dates next to them in chronological order, but perhaps not.
I think it's chronological by sheet, but the different sheets kind of jump all over the place. But we can get in the weeds of it later. I just wanted to know if that's.
We can talk about it. I see that they're listed in chronological order per supervisor, but if we need to be related or something like that, it's something perhaps we could work on.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't personally care what order they're in, if it makes it easier, whatever.
Yeah, I think it'd be easier for everyone. But all right, thanks for entertaining this little detour, everyone. But yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Theo. Alder Walker is up next. Malachi.
Thank you, Tom. How you doing, Chief?
I'm doing good, Malachi.
That's good. Just real quick, and I know I speak for most of the people in Hudson as well, but who was in charge of bringing Mr. Brian McSweeney back to Hudson? I would really like to commend them for bringing him back as a school officer. You know, I know I hated to see him going anywhere else besides Hudson because, you know,
That was the sheriff, Malachi, that chose who would be over at Hudson High School.
okay.
And I just had a meeting. I didn't include it because it's in February's report, but I just had a meeting with the new superintendent to reaffirm our commitment to having an SRO over there. They're very happy with the performance of Officer Brent Rao. And so, you know, and also we have discussed other safety matters for the school, but she's brand new over there. And we look forward to a good relationship like we had with Dr. Suttmeyer.
Okay, so that wasn't recommended for him to come back to Hudson? Was that just?
That was all within the sheriff. The sheriff chose him, and that was that to replace the other officer they had there, Sahotra, the other deputy, I should say.
Oh, okay, so the Hudson Department didn't really have no say in that.
We didn't have any input, but I'm sure the administration of the school, they had conversations with them. And again, if we had any change of personnel, we would always work in concert with the school administration before we made any kind of personnel move at the school.
Okay, all right, well, it's just great to have him back home in Hudson.
Yep.
Thank you, Malachi. Next, Alder Harris.
All right, good evening, Chief. So I saw last month we had 2 overdoses, none that were fatal. So I know I saw the good work you're doing with all those outreach programs. So what are we doing, like connecting with the health department just to show people how easy it is to get access to Narcan? Is that something the police department is working with currently?
We haven't done anything with the health department that I know of as far as distribution of Narcan. All we do is we maintain a stockpile of Narcan ourselves. We keep our training going. We respond. But as far as, I'm not sure what you're getting at, is that we work with the health department to get an educational program out.
Just something where like almost like a combined training program. I know that at Columbia Green, the sheriffs used to do one through I think it was a CPR class where they would sort of train the kids in how to use Narcan. During the pandemic, that kind of went by the wayside. I was wondering if that's something that we could do here in Hudson.
Through what entity though? Through the youth department, or I'm not really sure. To train young people how to use Narcan, is that where we're getting at?
Or just to show people like how easy it is to get, how easy it is to use. So I think a lot of people think like only medical professionals can use it, only first responders can use it. And it really is pretty easy to use. Like I have a couple of them in my purse that I carry around most of the time.
I will talk to the health department and maybe we can join them if they're doing some kind of a training for the community. We could join in. I'll call them tomorrow.
Thank you, Chief. Alder, is that it, Amber?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Descaludi.
Hi, Chief. How are you?
Very good, Vicky.
So I was reading the news last weekend, and I read about the robbery, the bank robbery, and I want to know the last 10 years, have we had any robberies, bank robberies in the city of Hudson?
Yes, we have. I think, was it 14? I believe it was 2014, but we were able to catch that guy on that block.
Uh-huh.
That's the last one I can remember in the city of Hudson.
Okay. Okay. My other question is, you guys doing a great job, patrolling the streets, but sometimes I see trucks driving roads they're not supposed to be. And I'm worried with the new construction we're going to have on, the 2 projects on 5th and 4th and 3rd Ward. Is there anything you can suggest, a way to monitor the problem?
Yeah, I mean, we've had this discussion with the council in the past. The issue at hand is large trucks getting off the truck route. Some of them blindly following their GPS and ending up in strange places in our city and places they can't back out of. And big problem over there at Columbia beyond 3rd Street. Sometimes they get tied up around State Street. We have monitored them in the past. We've had details in the past to target an informational thing and even ticket trucks that get off the truck route. We could do one of those things. We could do another one of those specialized details. And then I could report back to you what the numbers were.
Yeah, coming the spring and the summer, I think that's where obviously we're going to have a lot more construction happening. Now it's just it's slow, but I'm worried for the next 2 years,
Yeah, I think the last detail was done. I mean, it wasn't last summer, and like I mixed up with what the COVID summers are now. I think 19 was pre-COVID, was probably the last time we did a concerted effort to report on wayward trucks, and do ticket writing and enforcing. And I think it's probably due again. You're right.
That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other council members?
Tom, this is Margaret.
Oh, okay, Margaret.
Sorry, I'm still having issues with Zoom. Chief, I just had a question about enforcement of speeding in Hudson. And what is your approach to enforcing speed limits in Hudson? Is there any plan to perhaps target certain neighborhoods at certain times of day and try to make it clear to drivers that speed limits must be abided by? Because I think that this is an issue. I mean, we're dealing with we had an issue to look at potentially putting in speed bumps on Union, which for a variety of reasons was not practical. But we are looking at reducing the speed limit on certain streets. So what is your approach to managing compliance with speed limits in the city?
So the traditional speed enforcement, which is an officer doing an observation and checking it against radar, doesn't always work in key areas in Hudson, because it's very difficult to do a speed estimation, let's say on Warren Street or State Street. Our speed complaints a lot of times come from Worth Avenue, Harry Howard, where there's zones and people drive through them, and there's a long way you can drive, and actually you can get a good speed reading on folks there. More difficult situation to do that, let's say on Union Street with short blocks. So the way we've been doing it is we'll put out the variable message sign at times in a key area. Sometimes an alderman will say, hey, we have a speeding problem down, let's say by Bliss Towers. We'll put the machine up there as a visual warning. We've discussed the boulevards and different things up there to speed signs. On occasion, we'll do a speed detail where I charge the officers, 3 or 4 officers, to go out and strictly target speeders. But it's a difficult thing in Hudson in the more populated areas, and a lot easier to do on the outlying areas. The Bay Road, as you come into Hudson, is a place that's speeders can be ticketed, and we do sometimes in conjunction with state troopers. That's basically how we do it. I know, working with Dominic Moranti, the addition of speed radar signs will help dampen speeds throughout the city, and it's high time we get a few more of these devices. I know it's helped up by the school.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Malachi, you want to?
Oh yeah, just one more question, Chief. I know around this time is when DSS intervenes with the homeless individuals, and they have the code red, I believe it is. I just wanted to know if your department got any reports of any homeless individuals within these last few weeks, being that it's so frigid?
It's been bitterly cold. Just before this last, I think it was in December, we actually brought a person into our lobby to stay warm. We have not brought anyone to a code red facility yet this year. And we do always have a standing order when we know that the temperatures are going to get critical like this. We will have the officers go out and actively look for homeless people throughout the city and then make a report. Fortunately, this last couple of weeks it's gotten so cold that we did not have any instances of unsheltered person out in the sub-zero weather.
That's good. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. No alders seem to have further questions. We'll go to the public. Okay, Bill, keep it short. 2 questions.
Chief, it's my sense that, Tom, no comments, please, while I'm talking. It's my sense, and we all know that since COVID started, that driving in this country, drivers have gotten more dangerous. And it's true in Hudson as well. I see things every day because I walk around, I bike around a lot in town. Yesterday, I was sweeping the snow off the corner of 6th and State. I watched a car that did not stop at the stop sign and missed another car that was coming north on 6th Street. It missed him by 3 inches. Saturday night, there was an accident at 6th and Columbia because somebody did not stop at the red light and hit one of our city vehicles, I guess. Nobody was killed. And you know, Chief, well, that corner, HPD lost a vehicle there about 4 years ago. I saw another accident, 6th and Columbia last year, 2 cars in a nasty, nasty accident. And I'm wondering, first of all, you know, we all know that driving has gotten worse in the last 2 years. I'm wondering if you could comment, maybe go above what Margaret said. Are you doing anything downtown Hudson to control people who are running red lights, who are running stop signs, and who are speeding? Because I'll tell you, it's not improving. Whatever you're doing, Chief, it's not doing a damn thing. Now, also,
one of the things we're doing is we're arresting.
Ask the question, Bill. Calm down.
One of the things we're doing is wasting our time arresting people that throw clipboards at public officials like you, Bill.
Chief, have I
have to listen to 8 years?
Chief, can you answer the question properly?
Bill.
Yeah. Now, what was the question? Driving's getting worse. What's the evidence of that?
Yeah, the question is, Chief, can you catch everybody who runs a stop sign?
We have grants, Mr. President. We have grant money set aside that we apply for, that we work in conjunction with local law enforcement. We report back on PTS surveys and enforcement that we do routinely, and I report on that. So we go out and we target traffic offenders. We get grant money for that, so the taxpayers locally don't have to fund that extra effort. And that's done routinely yeah.
But if you miss certain speeders, how is that possible?
Well, it happens. We do report on this, Tom, and
sarcasm is so cute.
That was sarcasm, Bill, because your questions are getting out of
my second question, Tom, if you're quiet, I'll ask the question. We can get on with the meeting.
Okay. Go ahead.
The sign at Makers, 2 months ago, you said you'd find out if the maker had permission to put a sign up in front to take over one of the metered parking spaces on
Bill, that sign does not take over a metered parking space. Listen for 1 second, Bill. That sign says loading zone.
Did you find out if they have permission, Chief?
I can answer this, Tom. So I'm meeting with the Fourth Ward alderman regarding a couple loading zones. The situation at the Maker, where cars are double parking to offload into their hotel, is dangerous. So we're going to have a discussion, because the local law still allows for double parking for discharging passengers. Situation is not the best near the Third Street intersection. So I'm hoping to meet with Theo and Malachi to try to address the loading zone there. and also up at the Whaler and perhaps even at Stair Gallery. So I'm hoping
You
to have
have permission for the sign, chief.
Yes, the sign is only on the sidewalk. It is not in the street.
Do they have permission for the sign?
They do not need permission for the sign.
Really? They can put any sign there they want?
Why not? As long as it doesn't impede the sidewalk.
So why was the chief looking for a permit 2 months ago?
The sign is, we're in discussions with what to do with the maker and loading and parking and painting of curbs and things like that.
So they don't need permission to have that sign there, is that correct?
The sign is actually helping public safety right now.
You're not answering my question.
I don't know why I have to answer this fellow. Time and time again, for 8 years, I'm subjected to these questions by this man. This man who's going to be in court tomorrow to appear for yet another arrest.
Okay.
I'm getting tired of, I'm finally worn down after 8 years of this. Worried about a loading zone. He can submit his questions in writing to me every day. Anyone can, and I'll answer it. But enough is enough. I'm trying to answer this question. The loading zone situation at the maker is inherently an unsafe situation. Cars are discharging their passengers in front of this hotel right near the intersection of a truck route. It's dangerous. On their application to build that hotel, they did not set aside proper loading area in front of that hotel on their site plan. I believe if we work with legislation and with DPW and get everything done correctly, we can create a safe loading zone there at that hotel. And I look forward to that conversation and make the situation safer down there. That's what's going on with the maker.
Thank you, Chief. And technically, though, the sign has no, they can't stop people from parking there normally.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of,
people do park there normally.
Right.
So, but again, what I'm getting at is there's a hotel right on the corner.
Sure.
We need to look into a safer situation.
Okay.
There's a loading dock in the back.
Yeah, that's another thing, but I don't prioritize that, Malachi, as much as the problem out front.
Yeah.
The problem out back with the safety of the employees loading back there and stuff is not as easily solved as the problem up front.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Chief. I don't see any other hands up.
Thank you.
And we go on to Rob Perry, but is he here? Oh, there he is. Rob, you're up. Rob? Oh, here we go. Let's see, I think you might be still muted.
How about now?
Hello?
Yes?
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Technology, that's me. All right, so our accepted revenue for, for December was $35,556. The budget for revenue that we anticipated was $417,000 for 2021, and our actual was about $456,000. So our revenue exceeded by $40,000. So that's good news. The environmental planning grant, which is an EPG grant, we were awarded that last spring, I believe, late spring. That's to do some modeling of part of the combined sewer system. And it's a $100,000 grant with a $20,000 local share out of the sewer fund. The, we got paperwork into EFC really pretty quickly, but then we got held up by EFC. And so now we do have a meeting this month with them to kick it off, and we're going to get that program going forward. The front street stormwater separation. So we were awarded the water quality improvement grant. So this is from Commissioner Sagos to the city. Pleased to inform you that you received up to $1.4 million, and I believe it's a 20% local share. So we're on the hook for whatever that is, a couple $100,000. We also, this dovetails with the CDBG grant that we were previously awarded for $750,000. If you remember, last month we had an extension only through the end of January. But once we rewarded this and we showed proof of the award, we asked for another extension, and so we have the next extension. We are now extending the CDBG through December 30th of 2022. So we now have, we're fully funded. We have 2.15 million to use for construction. This project is already out to bid, and you'll see they have the same language. Extensions beyond this may not be considered. It is what it is. I guess they've got a good letter. They don't change the language. Either way, good news for us. So at this point, I think we were slated to open bids maybe next week, but we had a pre-conference meeting last week, and several of the contractors brought up, some pretty heavy questions, and there was a certain amount of investigation that was going to be on them as part of their contract that we're going to undertake, so that way we can address a lot of their outstanding concerns. We don't want to be in a position where good contractors are afraid to bid because of the risk, and we don't want to be in a position where all the contractors bid, high because of uncertainty. So it's a $3,500 camera project to go through a couple sections of this main and the project, and that should allay a lot of their concerns and help us get some good numbers. So as far as water, I kind of sent a little notice last week, but we did lose that pipe cleaning polypig last June, and it was a bit of a hairy situation for us, but we were able to get water flowing again while we figured out what our next steps were going to be. And it took us a couple months to get all the necessary parts to replace because of the global supply chain. So with that said, we did get we were going to go do this in the spring, but based on the cold weather, trying to get adequate flows, we said we got to go now. We got to get, because we're afraid that the pig was obstructing some flow. So anyway, so we got a contractor and we did begin excavation. This machine is a 60,000 pound machine. It's twice as big as anything we have. We don't have anything anywhere close. It's kind of hard to see this maybe, but this is a chasm here. This hole, you're talking about, this is over 20 feet deep from the ground up here down to this pipe. So we don't have anything at all that's even close to doing that kind of work. So with the contractor in hand, we got down, excavated. This is a sump to draw the groundwater away, expose the pipe. And at which point they cut a section of pipe out, and this is where we began to pull it. This is the T that we were discussing. This is a butterfly valve. And when it was pulled apart, there's the tip of the pig stuck, wedged against the valve, and there it is. So that section has been removed. And then after that was removed, we had everything in place. So we installed the replacement section with a new valve and dropped it in and installed it. So everything is back to normal, and that chapter is closed. Thank God. We did the bid opening for the Washington Street Water Main project. So this is actually two projects. There's a WIA, which is a water infrastructure project, which is about, I think, about $400,000. Grant with another $200,000 local share for the water fund. The lead service portion is $500,000, and that's 100% from Department of Health. So with these two grants, we put out our project. The lowest bidder right here was for $413,000. Our estimate was in the $750 to $800 range. Obviously, this is a bad number. You can see all the other numbers. So we did, speak with the low contractor, and they withdrew their bid, and under general municipal law, if they have a material defect in their bid, they are absolutely within their rights to withdraw a bid within 3 days. They withdrew the next day. At that point, we're also within our rights under general municipal law to offer to the next lowest bidder, and that is Grant Street Construction at $682. So it's a good number. It is below what our estimate was. And we also have experience with this company. They installed our storm line on the 1 and 200 block of Columbia Street 3 years ago. So they're a very competent, capable company, and we're happy with the company, and we're happy with the number. So that is they'll be purchasing. There's a resolution the council's already approved authorize the mayor to sign the contracts. Or no, I'm sorry, there is going to be a resolution this Tuesday for this project to authorize to sign contracts for the mayor, and then they get bids and bonds together, and start ordering supplies. So looking to start in spring. That's that. Just a little bit of kind of some snow stories here. This was Robinson Street during the first storm, which was back in January 17th. And, there are signs here, but a lot of the cars didn't move. And at that point, HPD had run out of, the tow company had run out of capacity. So we were unable to, the blower has to get all the way over here against the curb. These cars obviously weren't able to do it. This just shows you when the cars are moved that we can get, nice and clean right up to the curb. I show 8th Street again because this past storm, which it wasn't anywhere near the volume as that early one, but this is 8th Street, and this shows you kind of the value of alternate side parking. 8th Street doesn't do alternate side parking, so there's this mess that just gets left behind, and there's not much you can do about it because without doing snow removal, and the snow blower can't remove this. First of all, it's not a snow blower. This is essentially concrete. You had rain, then it changed over to sleet and freezing rain, and it was very wet, and then the temperature dropped to 4 degrees. So anybody who's tried to shovel out their car or their sidewalk knows exactly what we're talking about. At this point, we've sent the whole crew out. The crew worked from 11 o'clock p.m. Thursday night until about 6 p.m. Friday. So it was about, 17 hours or so. They came in at 4 a.m. on Saturday, and then they worked until about 4 a.m. on Saturday night, another 12 hours. They came in Sunday, 4 a.m., worked till about the same time, and they came in at 4 a.m. this morning, worked till 3:30. So they've been working 12-hour shifts ever since, just trying to work it and get what we can. They did come in early last night with loaders and backhoes to manually clean up the north side of Warren Street. Like I said, the snow blower is useless in this type of environment. So they did get one side of Warren Street done, but it took 6 guys basically a whole night, which typically we would do about, in the same time, we do about 7-8 miles of road. It's just the nature of this kind of snowfall. Down at, before the snow, in between the storms, they continue to work on the shed that was collapsing. And, this was the old foundation that we reused. You can see how out of plumb it was. The building was actually square. The foundation was not. We poured this new just to backfill and finish it off. But it's coming, it's coming nicely. A lot of the wood had been accrued over a number of years. We identified that this was a project, and so if we get a couple grand left over here and there from one year to the next, we can purchase some supplies, store it, and then when we get enough together. So that's where we are now. Building some sheds, some shelves, and a little workbench over here. Also, some seasonal DPW stuff. The cleaning of the cans. That's always fun. It comes just to give an idea because we've got a new class here. We talk about the audit, which is the bills that we pay. This is just 1 month's audit. You've got 6 inches of invoices. Now these invoices have to be paired up with the basic receipts that are given. So when they go to the hardware store, they're given a receipt. They all have to get matched up to these master invoices. They have to be posted against the right account. And we literally have over 100 accounts that these can be posted against. There are, dozens of vendors every month that are, we're purchasing goods from. So, when it comes time for us to do some, but hopefully not so much at the beginning of the year, but, when it does come time for us to do, interdepartmental transfers, within DPW, it's just because there's, we don't know how to, I'm okay at the budget, but I can't figure out in September of one year where we're going to be to the penny, January or December of the following year. So, this is the kind of work that has to take place before we get to a point where we can do our numbers. Just some just to give you an idea, this is $850,000 in bills because we're also handling the capital audits for the DRI projects, and there was a paving project in there as well. A little assistance to the youth department pumping out the beach house. The pipes froze and pipes burst and filled it up. That's probably about the third or fourth time that's happened. It's just, it's just an old, those heaters are in one room and these things are in the corners of the rooms, and it just happens. Similar thing happened with the police storage shed for their files down in Strawberry Alley. There's a heater in one room and there was a bathroom, and the bathroom door was closed, so the pipes burst there. So we've got some damage there as well. Also, we have just another cemetery. This was in the cemetery. There was an interment. A lot of cemeteries don't do winter interments for obvious reasons. These holes are actually done by the impact hammer that we use to break up the concrete in the streets. There's over a foot of frost in the ground, which essentially is concrete. So we had to go break it up for the interment. And what else is going on here? Oh, Ferry Street Bridge. Right now we've got a couple outstanding issues that are holding up the project. Big surprise. One of them is Amtrak. We have the authorization from the council for the mayor to enter into the agreement with Amtrak. The attorneys have reviewed it. They're not happy with all the terms because they favor the railroad, but like we say, the railroad's 300 years old. Our country's 275 years, 250 years old. So, but one of the things we do need is a value for the force account, which is basically their flaggers, how much they're going to charge us. That has to go into the contract. So we need that to get incorporated into it. We're having difficulties with National Grid getting a utility easement because we have to relocate the gas line and the power lines that currently go across southerly, and dealing with National Grid is always a challenge. And we actually have two temporary easements for this project. The one with the state of New York, we have, that had to be signed off by the state controller, the attorney general, and the commissioner of parks. The one from Hudson Terrace is what we're waiting on. So we actually have to resubmit because the check that we sent them has expired after 30 days. But until we get these things buttoned up, DOT is not going to allow us to put the bid on the streets. So it's just, it's more of the same. I've been dealing with this for 6 or 7 years now, and it's more of the same. But we're getting there for sure. That's what I have. It's all yours, Tom. You there? Hello.
I'm waiting. Margaret, you had your hand up?
Yeah, no, I just, Rob, thank you for submitting the materials ahead of the meeting. I know that you and I had talked last month, and I appreciate getting the materials ahead of time. That was very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Vicky has a question.
Hi, Rob. You've done a great job dislodging that polypig during the summer and finishing up the job in December. And I just was wondering, I mean, it did cost $40,000. I was wondering, is there any way to prevent this in the future? Because I know about this ice pigging, that there can be a different way of, cleaning pipes and stuff. So have you?
Yeah, listen, ice pigging is not going to work. This is a 6-mile run. That's something you use for a short run. The simple reality is there was still flowing coming from the reservoir. We were under the impression that the flow had been stopped coming in from the reservoir and the valve was not turned. It was a simple case of operator error, but it turned into something not so simple. Trust me, we don't plan on making that mistake again.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other alders, questions? The public, Nick Zakos.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, just quick question, Rob. I was wondering, when the poly pig got stuck and cut off our water, where has our water been coming from in that time that it's been stuck before we just got it fixed last week?
It never cut off the water. It was just partially obstructing it. It reduced the flow, but we had adequate flow always. We've been receiving water from Churchtown from 2 days after the pig getting lost. We never used an alternate supply.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, doesn't seem like anyone else has a question for you, Rob.
Perfect.
I guess we'll move along. Before we get to tonight's resolutions, I just want to make a quick apology for acting a little rude to Mr. Houston and being sarcastic. Not my normal style. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, moving along to resolutions. Shaheem, can you post the first resolution? Okay, this is pretty simple. Commissioner of Deeds, do I have an introduction?
Duan.
And a second.
I'll second.
Oh, I heard two people. Who?
Art can get it.
Art. Okay, Art. Next resolution, please. Oh, Rob didn't mention this, but this is a resolution to replace the dock floats at the waterfront. And it is $13,500. Can I have an introduction, please?
Duan.
Introduce.
Dewan and Amber, a second?
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions or?
Yeah. How old is the current dock is?
I don't know. The docks were installed in 2011. Oh, I think the original, it says 2010. But it's not the complete dock. It's just the float.
Just
part.
a float. Yeah, I'm talking about float.
Yeah. They're the original ones.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the next resolution, please, Shaheem. This is to appoint a new member of the Conservation Advisory Council, Nathan Woodhall. And I know a lot
I'll
of you.
introduce.
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, I'll just say, I'll introduce.
Oh, that's Art. Okay, do I have a second?
Ronnie.
I'll second.
Oh, Ronnie beat you to it, Amber. Okay, the next resolution is it's supporting a Columbia County resolution regarding hate and all versions. Is that Dewan?
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
That's Amber.
Tom,
Yes, who's that?
it's Dominic.
Yes, please, go ahead.
I just got a couple questions about the resolution. What does ability mean, and how come it doesn't? There's some include age in terms of elder and things like that. There seems to be some exclusion, and I'm wondering where did this originate from? That we can have a discussion about adding some elements.
Okay, it was brought forth by Alder Frick, and I believe it's just. I'm sorry, what?
Dominic, to be frank, that was added in based off of the original Columbia County resolution. And I think that if we wish to add age included into this, I do not see any issue with that. I think that is completely and 100% in the scope of what the spirit of the original resolution was supporting.
And what does ability mean? Does that mean disability or ability? What does ability mean? What is that in context?
Disability, ambulatory, any number of things.
Mental health.
Would you rather to say disability, Dominic? I'm not quite sure I understand.
I think the issue here is, if I
ahead.
may, Dominic, I think there's some opinions that disability sometimes can be disparaging. So I think the wording is ability to kind of show the spectrum of ability. It could be
Correct.
unable
Correct,
to,
Ronnie.
yeah.
Okay. Moving on to the next resolution. This is a donation to the Hudson Fire Department. It doesn't say, from Columbia County. Can I have an introduction, please?
Duan.
And a second, please.
Come on, man, it's donation. Second.
I'll second it. No one.
Okay, Ronnie, thank you. And our last resolution is to purchase, now that we have 2 streets that are have been changed to 25 miles per hour, we need signs to make people aware of that. And this is a resolution to pay for those signs. Can I have an introduction, please?
Margaret.
Margaret, and a second, please.
Duan.
Duan. Okay, I remind you all who introduced or seconded resolutions to please go into City Hall tomorrow and sign those documents.
Hey, Tom, how many signs do we need actually? Do you know?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
How many signs do we need for that street sign, you know?
Dominic, how many signs were on there? I'm not sure.
It's total of 16. So there used to be 6 Glenwood has 6, 10 for Union. And the idea is every time you enter the street from every point, you need
to see a sign.
Excellent. So Fairview on from Washington to the 6th of them, the 6th to Glenwood. And then I think it's from Parkwood to Glenwood. Yeah.
Oh,
thank you. Okay. Alders, any other questions or comments before we open up to the public?
I got one, Tom.
Okay.
A couple of things. So I appreciate, I know you got a little frustrated. So is there a way that we could come up with a decorum for public comment where we can eliminate what just happened to, the department head? We're still new in the council, and I like to move this ahead in a positive way where, I know other, they post, on the website, this is the decorum for public comment.
Well, we can, I think
Act A, B, and C, you're going to get a warning, and if you don't hear by the warning, I think the more it's visible, the more we can eliminate what just happened.
That might be possible. If you can draft something you think is useful, I'd appreciate that. It's very hard because, my inclination is to leave the question period as open as possible. And it works. I mean, we only have really one person who abuses it. So, I don't, know if we need a hard and fast rule.
But I think moving forward, it's better to have the hard and fast word because for that one person is knowledgeable. So Linda's saying something. Linda's saying something that there might be one. But I'm thinking, at least it eliminates what we just went through. Because now that, if it happens again, there's going to be a process. And then we have anyone putting in writing, I don't know. That was very uncomfortable for me to go through. And I don't think it was fair to the chief, and it raised its frustration. And I want to change the momentum of the meeting into a better mode for conversation and for moving forward. Another thing, just a quick update. If you can update on the tourism board and what that's looking like. I know we're 2 months in. Has there been any movement on what?
Yes, we'll talk about it at our next meeting. There's a resolution in the works.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Any other alders? Speaking of which, we're also going to have a resolution, hopefully, about changing all our documents that we can change to reflect the usage of gender neutral alders.
That would be great.
Any other? Ronnie, you'd like to say something?
Yeah, I think basically just echoing what Dominic said. But I also understand that what Tom is saying is that we do want to keep it open. And sometimes people do get heated. So I think if we kind of implement maybe possibly having, especially when it comes to department heads, if there are questions that we could take ahead of time, obviously we'll still have to keep it open to public that might not have the time to do it. But
yeah, here's the thing, Bill actually asks some very valid questions sometimes. So
yeah,
I don't see, just, you can't just cut him off completely.
No, I'm not proposing that at all. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes maybe if on the spot when you're asking a question, the words might get a little jumbled and get heated, but if you submit it ahead of time, it could be clear.
Okie doke. Any other alders, questions?
Yeah, Tom, this is Margaret.
Yes, Margaret.
Yeah, so, I understand the issue of trying to get people to submit things ahead of time, but that kind of limits a dynamic discussion. And so, I agree with Tom that you have to, ideally you want to have open discussion. You want to leave things open to the public. And I myself have been a very vocal participant as a member of the public in recent years. So I would really be hesitant to restrict public comment. How one manages it, how one establishes decorum or rules, I'm not quite sure. But I would not favor asking for questions ahead of time, because as you're listening to a presentation, things, people say things beyond what's in the written word, and then you have questions. So I would not want that.
Well, I don't think Dominic or I are either proposing restricting it. I just think there might be an opportunity where we can have the ability they can submit a question, not necessarily restricting them.
Got it.
No, I agree with you that I think getting things in advance is always good. I agree with that, but we also still have to have the fluidity of the open discussion.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yep.
Yeah, just to clarify, just like Ronnie said, this is just a process that if you can't abide by a certain decorum, that the next stage is we're not going to disqualify you from saying you're public, but it might have to be in writing if you can't conduct yourself in a certain way in the public. Was my thought. It's just being a way you can submit something, but it might have to be in a different method, not in a public way.
That's reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's Art, you have something you'd like to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to say to Alder Moranti and Alder Ronnie, happy to support any efforts regarding like a decorum statement or anything like that. I think that's a great idea.
Okay, moving along to the public. Ron Kupnicki.
Yes, this is a comment on, I guess, would be considered old business and not on the last resolution. It has to do with the statement you made at the special meeting on January 27th and during the discussion of the proposal about adaptive reuse of the Dunn warehouse. You said in that context, actually, this is according to the minutes, actually, because there is a DRI committee, this doesn't necessarily have to have council approval, but the committee decided very early on that they would bring every RFQ, RFP, whatever it is, to the council just so that it would, in light of keeping things open and transparent. In the context of the discussion that we had at the regular meeting on January 18th about the DRI committee, which had been set up by Mayor Rector and continued by Mayor Johnson, and which apparently ceased operation in December of 2020. I would like to ask you, when you said there is a DRI committee, were you referring to that committee, or were you referring to any future committee that might be set up to deal with issues involving the Dunn warehouse? Could you just clarify that?
I would like to, if I kind of better understood your question. Are you?
Well, okay. When we had the discussion at the regular meeting, you basically stated that the committee that had been set up by Mayor Rector and continued by Mayor Johnson was defunct.
No.
You didn't say that.
No.
Well, according to the minutes, again, I will read the minutes.
No,
from that.
you don't have to do that. Let's just deal with the question at hand.
The question at hand is there a DRI committee at present? There is one.
Yes.
Okay. And now I have a further question with regard to openness and transparency, because that existing DRI committee, as of its meeting summary of March 18th, 2020, right after the pandemic emergency was declared, began to maintain that it was not subject to the open meetings law.
That was decided by someone who's no longer on the committee.
And who was that?
That's not important.
I would love to know who decided that, because let me put this again in context. Prior to the pandemic emergency, when the DRI committee was having in-person meetings, I attended several of them.
Mm-hmm.
There was never any claim that the meetings were not subject to the open meetings law. Nobody ever said.
That's not correct, Ron. That's not
correct.
correct.
No. Well,
Ron,
let me.
I'm going to correct you. Under Mayor Rector, they wanted some of the committee did not want to have those meetings in open, and in fact, I'm the one who pressed to make sure those meetings were open. That you did.
Okay, well, that's fine, but my point is they were open.
Correct.
They were attended by the public, and in the meeting accounts, which were apparently drafted by the consulting company Chasen, whom the city hired, who the council authorized.
Yep.
Up until the meeting of March 18th, there was never any proviso in the meeting summaries that said that the committee was not subject to the open meetings law. It was only with that meeting that started. And then finally, as the year of 2020 went on, due to requests by myself and other people, the final meeting of that committee on December 2nd was open to the public via telephone and was attended by myself and Ms. Carol Osterink. And then thereafter, there have been no meetings of the DRI committee, which led to my original question to you as to whether the committee was still in existence. So that is the question. And now you say it is, but you say that the committee will continue to maintain that it's not subject to the open meetings law.
No, I don't maintain anything about whether it's subject to the open meetings law or not. It's not my committee.
But you were and are on it, I assume.
Correct.
So it's the mayor's committee.
Correct.
So will the mayor answer that question at some point?
I assume you'd have to ask him that.
Okay, well, I will then.
Good.
Because I have a great interest, and I'm sure everyone has a great interest.
Absolutely.
In openness and transparency. And let me finish. I think the best way to serve openness and transparency is by having the meetings of this very significant committee available to the public.
They have been available, Ron. Look.
No, they were not. Starting in March of 2020, minutes or meeting summaries were provided. There was no live stream or any other way of accessing the meetings for the public in real time. There were no in-person meetings at that time, so if you wanted to attend, you couldn't attend. Only in response to various requests by myself and others was the final meeting on December 2nd, 2020, available to the public. And since then, as far as I know, there have been no official meetings of that committee.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to the committee resuming its meetings, and I'm looking forward to being able to ask the mayor if they will indeed be open to the public.
Great. And in the meantime, I believe at the next HPC, which is on Friday, the Arterial will be making a presentation on possibilities for the various materials they will be using.
Yes, and I attended in person the meeting of the DRI committee when Arterial first made its presentation. So that's another reason why I appreciate public access to the meetings of the DRI.
You're not missing anything. There's nothing. The only things that are being discussed, as far as I know, are purely logistical questions like when should they meet with HPC?
Well, the public might be interested in logistical questions.
I doubt it.
I think it should be left up to the public to determine that.
That's like asking for a level of, that's like saying the public should be up in City Hall all day long to see every communication that's made between the mayor and anyone else.
Well, I don't agree with you.
That's fine. Okay, let's move right along. Anyone else?
Yes, I would like to say something in regard to the public speaking.
Sure.
And I do believe that the gentleman who spoke earlier about.
Excuse me a second.
My name is Matt McGee.
Right.
Citizen of Hudson. And I do believe that he did get out of order, but I also thought the chair was out of order, and you did apologize for it. And I think that to rush to judgment on what should be done to the public in general because of an incident like this, which was somewhat provoked, should not take place. I think we're all adults. We can stand somebody getting grumpy every now and then, or even rude. And I think that we need to keep meetings open and to hear everyone. And some people, as Tom said, can offer worthwhile information. And sometimes they don't. Well, that happens all the time. And I think we need to calm down and be reasonable and allow for ourselves to be adults and to respond in a mature way and not try to, have law and order on every front. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Anyone else? Art.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Actually, I got one more question for you, Tom. Since we brought up the resolution of the docs, do you know the status of the RFP? I know last year we got jammed up, with the.
It's coming up. It should be.
Right, the license.
Oh, go ahead, finish. I'm sorry.
The license, the license of the docs.
Yeah, it's going to be on next week's agenda.
Awesome. All right, great. Thanks.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I knew what you were going to ask. So
that's getting scary, Tom, but thanks.
Do we have a second to Art's?
Duan.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone object?
Aye.
Thank you all. Good night.